Have you ever paused to consider the deeper meaning behind the first letter of your name? Not your full name, not your family history, just that very first letter, the one sound you've answered to your entire life. At first, it might seem trivial, just a letter of the alphabet, a random assignment passed down by your parents or chosen for aesthetic reasons. But what if it's not random at all? What if the first letter of your name carries symbolic weight, a vibration, a tone, a pattern that reflects who you are at a deeper level? Carl Jung, one of the most influential thinkers in psychology, believed that our lives are not governed solely by logic or chance. He taught that we are shaped by archetypes, universal forces that operate beneath the surface of our conscious minds. These archetypes reveal themselves in dreams, myths, behaviors, and yes, even in the symbols we interact with daily. According to Jung, symbols are the language of the unconscious, and the names we carry, especially the first sound we respond to, can act as powerful mirrors of our inner landscape. That first letter becomes a gateway, a subtle signal of the energy your soul expresses in the world. Let's imagine, just for a moment, that the first letter of your name is more than ink on a birth certificate, that it holds an energetic blueprint of your core tendencies, your hidden motivations, or even your spiritual signature. Sounds far-fetched? Perhaps. But once we begin to explore Jung's theories of the collective unconscious, projection and individuation, this idea starts to feel less like superstition and more like an invitation, an opportunity to understand yourself in a symbolic, intuitive and deeply personal way. We are not defined by our names, but we are shaped by how we carry them. From childhood, the first letter of your name is the sound that signals your identity. It's how you're called, introduced, remembered. That letter becomes a verbal symbol, repeated in every interaction, silently reinforcing something about how you're seen and how you see yourself. And over time, without even realizing it, that symbol becomes a part of your internal narrative. It resonates through your relationships, your decisions, even your self-image. You might not consciously think about it, but your unconscious does. It's always listening, always interpreting. Jung would ask, what symbols are you unconsciously living out? What energy are you responding to without even knowing it? This is the space where psychology meets poetry, where personal detail meets universal meaning. And the first letter of your name, simple as it may seem, might just be one of those overlooked doorways into your deeper truth. In this journey, we're going to explore the symbolic and psychological meaning of each letter of the alphabet, from A to Z, and how the first letter of your name may reflect hidden aspects of your personality, your emotional rhythm, and even your archetypal identity. But before we begin, a reminder. This isn't about putting people into boxes. Jungian archetypes are not rigid categories. They are mirrors, revealing what you may have sensed all along, but never fully named. So if you're someone who seeks depth, symbolism, and self-awareness, stay with us. What you discover might not only change how you hear your own name, it might change how you understand your soul. Take a deep breath. We're about to listen more closely than ever to a sound you've known since the beginning. Carl Jung often said that the soul speaks, not through logic, but through symbols. Symbols are not fixed definitions. They are bridges between the conscious and the unconscious. They hold meaning that cannot always be explained, but can be deeply felt. Most people think of letters as static components of language, tools we use to build words and sentences. But from a symbolic perspective, letters are energetic signatures. They are the first impressions of a name, the first vibration you offer the world every time someone speaks to you. Jung believed that every recurring image or sound in our life becomes psychologically loaded. Repetition makes meaning, and there is hardly anything more repeated in your life than the first sound of your name. In many spiritual and esoteric traditions, each letter of the alphabet carries a vibrational frequency, an emotional tone, and even a metaphysical resonance. While Jung himself did not explore letters in this way, his ideas about archetypes and the symbolic structure of the psyche allow us to engage with the alphabet as more than just a linguistic tool. Think about this. The first letter of your name is often your first verbal identity. It's the part of your name that gets remembered, abbreviated, emphasized. When someone calls out to you, that's the first sound they release. It carries power. This first letter may not define you, but it might describe something about how your soul chooses to interact with the world. Your energetic approach to life, your emotional strategy, your psychological posture. For example, name that begins with A often carries the symbolism of beginning, leadership, or initiation. A B may carry the energy of bonding, care, or emotional safety. A D might resonate with structure, direction, and determination. These are not rules. They are archetypal tones, broad themes that may live beneath the surface of your personality, expressing themselves in ways both subtle and obvious. Jung taught that our conscious personality is only a small fragment of who we really are. Beneath the persona, the social mask, we carry a complex network of symbols, stories, and psychological currents. When we bring those into awareness, we don't become limited by them. We become more whole. In this way, the first letter of your name becomes a symbolic mirror, not of who you should be, but of a pattern that might already be alive in you. It's not fortune-telling. It's pattern recognition. It's asking, if this sound has shaped me, what story has it been telling through me all along? As we move into the next parts of this journey, we'll begin walking through each letter of the alphabet, from A to Z, offering symbolic interpretations of the psychological energy each letter might carry. You don't need to believe in magic to listen symbolically. You just need to be curious about what has always been there, right in front of you, calling your name. Now let's begin. A, the initiator. If your name begins with the letter A, you carry the symbolic energy of initiation, willpower, and self-definition. A is the first letter of the alphabet, not just in order but in presence. It moves forward with strength and direction, announcing identity. It is not passive, it is a call to act. People with this energy often feel a deep internal push to carve their own path. Even when uncertain, they move. There is a pioneering quality to them, as if their soul remembers that everything must begin somewhere, and they are willing to go first. But the shadow of A is dominance. The desire to lead can turn into control. The need to be first can create fear of failure. For these individuals, the work is to balance strength with softness, to understand that initiation isn't just about action, it's about awareness. Of timing, too. When integrated, the A energy becomes a force of inspiration. These individuals don't wait for permission. They show others what's possible simply by daring to begin. B, the nurturer. If your name begins with B, you carry the energy of bonding, care, and emotional safety. Where A leads, B connects. It curves inward, softening the sharp edges of the world. This is the energy of presence, of relationship, of creating space for others to be held. Jung would associate this with the archetype of the caregiver, the one who supports without needing recognition. People with this vibration often feel called to protect, to comfort, to create peace. They are not always loud, but their presence is felt deeply by those around them. The shadow of B is self-neglect. In giving so much to others, they may forget their own needs. They may equate love with sacrifice and stability with silence. For this soul, the challenge is to understand that they deserve the same care they offer so naturally to others. When conscious B energy becomes the sacred container for healing, these are the people who hold families, teams, friendships together, not through control, but through quiet devotion. C, the communicator. If your name begins with C, you carry the symbolic tone of expression, curiosity and adaptability. C is open, flexible, constantly turning. It wants to move, to explore, to share. This is the energy of the messenger, the one who brings thought into form and feeling into voice. Individuals with this imprint are often drawn to language, whether spoken or artistic. They are quick to observe, to reflect, to find patterns. In conversation and culture, Jung might associate this with the archetype of the trickster or the storyteller, those who reveal truth not by force, but by play and insight. The shadow of C is avoidance. In always moving, always speaking, there can be a reluctance to stop and feel. These individuals may deflect discomfort with charm or distraction. The work for them is to recognize that true connection requires vulnerability, not just fluency. When balanced, the C energy becomes a powerful bridge between minds and hearts. They help others understand themselves by naming what no one else could quite articulate. D, the builder. If your name begins with D, you carry the energy of structure, discipline, and quiet strength. The form of the letter itself suggests a firm vertical backbone with a protective curve, a combination of solidity and containment. This is the energy of building, protecting, and sustaining. People with this imprint often feel grounded, dependable, and focused on results. Jung might associate this energy with the archetype of the provider or the architect, someone who doesn't chase dreams in the clouds, but brings them down to earth, brick by brick. But the shadow of D is rigidity. In the pursuit of stability, they may resist change. They may fear letting go of control or become too invested in roles and responsibilities. The work is to allow flexibility without losing integrity, to trust that life can evolve without collapsing. When balanced, D energy becomes the force that holds foundations steady in a world that often shakes. These individuals lead through quiet presence and steady effort, not flash, but endurance. E, the seeker. If your name begins with E, you carry the energy of exploration, stimulation, and intellectual hunger. The letter reaches outward in every direction. It's expansive, expressive, and full of motion. It doesn't settle easily because it's always seeking what's next. This is the archetype of the explorer or the questioner. People with this vibration are often curious, expressive, and adaptable. They may love conversation, learning, travel, and all forms of growth. For Jung, this reflects the movement of the psyche toward expansion, toward understanding the outer world as a mirror for the inner one. The shadow of E is distraction. In chasing stimulation, they may avoid depth. In seeking many experiences, they may forget to reflect. The challenge is to slow down, listen inward, and remember that not all answers come from the outside. When integrated, E energy becomes a powerful force of insight. These individuals are not content with repetition. They evolve, and they invite others to evolve with them. F, the harmonizer. If your name begins with F, you carry the symbolic energy of feeling, balance, and refinement. The letter itself suggests both structure and softness, upright yet open, composed yet fluid. This is the energy of grace under pressure. People with F at the start of their name often hold an intuitive sensitivity to beauty, fairness, and emotional nuance. They may have a natural talent for mediation, art, or emotional attunement. Jung might see this as part of the lover archetype, someone who is guided not just by logic, but by a strong internal sense of emotional truth. But the shadow of F is people-pleasing. In trying to maintain peace or beauty, they may avoid discomfort, confrontation, or mess. They may compromise too often or fear letting others down. The work for this soul is to understand that true harmony includes honesty and that their feelings matter as much as anyone else's. When conscious, F energy becomes elegance in motion, offering balance without bending too far, love without losing self. G, the guardian of inner worlds. If your name begins with G, you carry the energy of depth, protection, and introspection. The letter itself turns inward, its form curling back toward itself, suggesting a contemplative nature and a tendency to look beneath the surface. This is the archetype of the inner guardian, the one who seeks truth not in noise, but in quiet. People with this imprint are often thoughtful, observant, and emotionally self-contained. Jung might associate this with the archetype of the hermit or the wise elder, one who doesn't fear solitude, but finds clarity within it. The shadow of G is withdrawal. In protecting their inner world, they may become overly guarded, hard to reach, or slow to trust. They may confuse safety with distance. The work for them is to remain open while honoring their depth, to realize that connection doesn't require losing themselves. When integrated, G energy becomes a grounded source of wisdom. These individuals don't speak to impress, they speak to illuminate. H, the bridge between worlds. If your name begins with H, you carry the energy of balance, transition, and sacred duality. The letter stands between two parallel lines, connected by a bar that holds them in place. It's a natural symbol of integration. This is the archetype of the mediator, the guide, or the mystic. People with H energy often move between different worlds. Logic and emotion, spiritual and material, light and shadow. Jung would see them as carriers of the transcendent function, those who help opposing forces unite, who bring unconscious contents into conscious form. The shadow of H is indecision. In always seeing both sides, they may struggle to take a side. In bridging others, they may lose their own clarity. The task is to know when to stand still and when to step across. When conscious, H energy becomes a sacred link. These individuals help others understand that wholeness isn't about perfection, it's about unity. I, the witness. If your name begins with I, you carry the symbolic energy of vision, awareness, and individuality. A single upright line, centered, direct, unshaken. The letter I is the only one that also refers to the self. I am. This is the archetype of the observer and the witness. People with this vibration may feel called to see clearly, to stand apart, or to hold space for what others overlook. Jung might associate this with the archetype of the self-reflective one, the seeker who does not need noise to know truth. They may have a strong sense of self-direction or inner purpose, even when they don't fully express it. But the shadow of I is isolation. They may struggle with connection or feel misunderstood. They may appear cold, when in reality they are simply careful with their presence. Their task is to remember the I is not meant to stand alone. It is meant to stand true. When integrated, I energy becomes quiet power. These individuals help others reconnect with their inner compass by showing what alignment looks like in form. J, the initiator of joy and justice. If your name begins with J, you carry the energy of momentum, elevation, and idealism. The letter moves downward and curves upward again, suggesting a fall and rise, an emotional arc, a story in motion. It's a letter that doesn't stay still. Jung might associate this symbol with the archetype of the hero or the reformer, those who are driven not only to act, but to uplift. People with this imprint often possess a strong moral compass and a desire to bring clarity or change to the spaces they enter. They may be energetic, expressive, and motivated by something higher than personal gain. They carry the tone of justice and joy, with a personality that can both challenge and inspire. The shadow of J is restlessness. Their energy may become chaotic, impulsive, or overly idealistic. They may expect too much of themselves or others, seeking constant upward motion and struggling with limitation. When balanced, J energy becomes a source of inspiration. These individuals remind others that joy is not frivolous, it is sacred, and that action grounded in purpose can move the world. K, the catalyst. If your name begins with K, you carry the symbolic energy of disruption, clarity, and change. The letter stands strong and branches sharply outward, left and right. It's a signal of potential impact, a symbol of deliberate divergence. People with this vibration are often disruptors, not in the destructive sense, but as catalysts for necessary transformation. Jung would associate this with the archetype of the challenger or the lightning bringer, someone who brings truth, whether or not it's comfortable. They often have a sharp mind, quick instincts, and a natural ability to spot what's no longer working. They don't fear change, they push it forward. The shadow of K is impatience. They may cut too fast, speak too soon, or act before understanding the full emotional impact. Their challenge is to temper insight with compassion. When integrated, K energy becomes a rare kind of power, the kind that liberates. These individuals help others break through illusions and return to what matters. L, the listener and the lover. If your name begins with L, you carry the symbolic tone of receptivity, softness, and relational wisdom. The form of the letter opens outward and upward, as if to receive. It is quiet, but not passive. This is the archetype of the lover, the healer, the one who listens before speaking. People with L at the beginning of their name often have a deep need for connection, not surface-level interaction, but meaningful, heart-centered presence. Jung might see this energy as reflecting the anima, the inner feminine principle in all human beings. It seeks beauty, wholeness, and emotional truth. The shadow of L is self-erasure. In listening too much, they may forget their own voice. In seeking peace, they may suppress conflict. The work for this soul is to learn that love without boundaries is not harmony. It is exhaustion. When balanced, L energy becomes the quiet force that binds people together. These individuals are not loud, but they are unforgettable because they make others feel truly seen. M, the maker. If your name begins with M, you carry the symbolic energy of creation, resilience, and depth. The letter's form rises, falls, and rises again, mirroring life's natural rhythm of effort, collapse and renewal. It is a builder's letter, a rhythm of continuity and persistence. Jung would associate this energy with the archetype of the creator or the mother, the one who holds, nurtures and constructs something meaningful from within. People with this imprint often possess emotional strength beneath a quiet surface. They build slowly but intentionally, relationships, ideas, structures that last. The shadow of M is over-containment. In holding so much, they may forget to ask for help. They may carry the weight of others without recognizing their own limits. Their challenge is to realize that even those who create need moments to receive. When integrated, M energy becomes the foundation others rely on, not because they demand it, but because their integrity naturally supports those around them. N, the navigator. If your name begins with N, you carry the energy of movement, thought, and subtle insight. The letter bends downward and then ascends. It reflects adaptation, responsiveness, and a natural flow through challenge. This is the archetype of the navigator or the intuitive one. People with N at the beginning of their name often possess sharp inner perception. They can read between the lines, move through complexity, and shift course without losing direction. Jung might see them as aligned with the archetype of the magician or the seeker, those who transform through insight. But the shadow of N is inconsistency. In constantly adjusting, they may struggle to anchor. They may adapt so much to others that they forget their own center. The task is to learn that flexibility is strength, but only when it's grounded in inner clarity. When balanced, N energy becomes grace in motion. These individuals help others move through uncertainty, not by giving answers, but by modeling the power of adaptation with soul. O, the observer. If your name begins with O, you carry the symbolic energy of wholeness, mystery, and receptivity. The circle that forms the letter O is complete. Closed, self-contained, contemplative. It holds space rather than filling it. This is the archetype of the mystic, the silent witness, or the one who sees what others miss. People with O at the start of their name often move slowly, speak thoughtfully, and hold presence like a mirror. Jung would connect this with the self-archetype, the center of the psyche that contains all opposites and seeks balance through reflection. The shadow of O is withdrawal. In becoming too inward, too still, they may disconnect from engagement. They may withhold truth, expression, or even emotion, believing that silence is always safer. The task for this soul is to step forward without losing stillness, to realize that presence doesn't mean hiding, it means being fully. When integrated, O energy becomes pure awareness. These individuals teach others not through force, but through quiet truth. Their stillness speaks more than most noise ever could. P, the purpose-driven one. If your name begins with P, you carry the energy of focus, vision, and inner alignment. The letter itself stands tall with a forward-facing curve, suggesting a sense of direction, motion, and intent. This is the letter of those who move not aimlessly, but with purpose. People with this vibration often have a strong inner compass. They are driven to create meaning and to contribute something valuable. Jung would associate this with the archetype of the visionary or the servant leader, those who act from a place of conviction rather than ego. They are often reliable, thoughtful, and quietly ambitious. They may not always speak loudly, but when they act, it's deliberate. The shadow of P is rigidity in purpose. In clinging too tightly to ideals or plans, they may become inflexible, closed off to change, or unable to adapt to what life actually requires. The work is to remember, purpose must evolve as the soul evolves. When balanced, P energy becomes a quiet but unwavering force. These individuals are not here to drift. They are here to align action with deeper truth. Q, the questioner. If your name begins with Q, you carry the symbolic energy of inquiry, paradox, and hidden complexity. The form of the letter mirrors O, wholeness, but with a diagonal cut that disrupts the circle. It suggests mystery, interruption, and unexpected insight. This is the energy of the questioner, or the sacred disruptor, one who doesn't accept things at face value. Jung might connect this with the archetype of the shadow worker or the rebel thinker, those who illuminate what others ignore. People with this imprint often carry a sharp intellect and a subtle discomfort with certainty. They ask the questions no one wants to ask, and in doing so, they expand what others are able to see. The shadow of Q is inner conflict. In always seeking what's hidden, they may struggle with trust. They may become cynical or isolated. Their challenge is to learn that questions don't destroy meaning, they deepen it. When integrated, Q energy becomes a powerful force for awakening. These individuals help others become more honest, not by shouting, but by asking the right thing at the right time. R, the resonator. If your name begins with R, you carry the symbolic tone of passion, movement, and emotional resonance. The letter curves with force and drops with weight. It's a dynamic symbol of response and reaction. This is the archetype of the emotional awakener, the one who doesn't just feel deeply, but expresses it in ways that ripple through others. Jung might link this energy to the artist, the romantic or the spiritual warrior, those who live from the heart and move others through their presence. People with this imprint may be expressive, intense, or poetic. They often form deep connections and experience emotions vividly. They don't just understand meaning, they embody it. The shadow of R is emotional reactivity. They may become overwhelmed by their own intensity or trapped in emotional cycles. The work for this soul is to harness their passion without letting it consume them. When conscious, serenity becomes magnetic and healing. These individuals help others remember what it feels like to be fully alive. S, the shapeshifter. If your name begins with S, you carry the energy of fluidity, adaptability, and subtle influence. The soft, winding curve of the letter reflects a path that is not linear. It flows, bends, and weaves. This is the energy of movement through complexity. Jung might associate this with the archetype of the shapeshifter or the intuitive guide, someone who senses what is unspoken and adjusts without losing presence. People with S energy often possess emotional intelligence, charm, and the ability to navigate tension with grace. They are not rigid, they adapt. But this flexibility is often born of deep perception, not shallowness. The shadow of S is loss of self. In blending so well with others or environments, they may forget where they end and the world begins. They may struggle with boundaries or feel invisible despite their gifts. When integrated, S energy becomes deeply healing. These individuals are connectors, translators, emotional alchemists. They help others move through transition by showing how to soften without collapsing. T, the torchbearer. If your name begins with T, you carry the symbolic energy of clarity, leadership, and principle. The shape is upright, grounded, with a horizontal line extending outward. It creates a cross, a symbol of convergence and truth. T is not easily swayed. This is the archetype of the teacher, the protector, or the guide. People with T energy often feel responsible, not in the burdened sense, but in a purposeful one. They are drawn to uphold what is just, clear, and consistent. Jung might associate this with the archetype of the king or queen in their balanced form, those who use their authority to serve a greater good. The shadow of T is inflexibility. They may hold on to ideals too tightly or struggle with change that challenges their structure. The task is to remember that truth expands, not breaks, when it's tested. When balanced, T energy becomes a beacon. These individuals don't just hold standards, they live them. They become examples of integrity in motion. You, the vessel. If your name begins with you, you carry the energy of receptivity, nurturing, and sacred space. The letter opens upward like a cup or a bowl. It invites. It holds, it receives, it does. Not grasp, it allows. This is the archetype of the vessel, the healer, or the priestess/priest. People with this energy often serve as emotional containers for others. They make people feel safe, understood, and accepted without having to say much. Jung might see this as deeply aligned with the archetype of the self, calm, centered, and integrative. The shadow of you is emptiness. In always holding for others, they may feel they have nothing left for themselves. They may forget that a vessel must also be filled. When conscious, you energy becomes a sacred mirror. These individuals don't chase recognition. They create spaces where truth and tenderness can emerge naturally. Their gift is in being fully present when others aren't. V. The visionary. If your name begins with V, you carry the symbolic energy of direction, discernment, and forward motion. The letter descends and rises in a sharp, focused point, like an arrow or compass. It suggests clarity of purpose and the drive to move ahead with intention. This is the archetype of the visionary or the strategist, someone who sees where things are going before others do. Jung might associate this energy with the warrior of insight, the one who leads not by force, but by perception. People with V energy often value precision. They may be goal-oriented, analytical, and highly intuitive beneath their structured exterior. They can be both rational and instinctive at once. The shadow of V is rigidity in vision. When their plans are disrupted, they may resist uncertainty. Their task is to stay open to new routes, trusting that clarity can evolve. When balanced, V energy becomes focused light, cutting through confusion and leading others not just to what is efficient, but to what is true. The weaver. If your name begins with W, you carry the symbolic energy of interconnection, cycles, and synthesis. The dual peaks of the letter resemble waves, valleys, and movement through opposites. It is a letter of duality transformed into harmony. This is the archetype of the weaver, the one who brings together threads of experience, emotion, and meaning. Jung might connect this to the alchemist archetype, someone who turns inner contradictions into gold. People with W energy often live in more than one world. They may feel stretched between roles, cultures, identities, but their soul knows how to hold complexity. They don't simplify life, they elevate it through integration. The shadow of W is overwhelm. In holding so many threads, they may become tangled or lose their center. Their growth comes from learning that weaving meaning doesn't require carrying everything. When integrated, W energy becomes transformative. These individuals show others how to honor contradiction, how to build bridges, and how to create coherence where others see only chaos. The crossroads. If your name begins with X, you carry a rare symbolic energy, one of tension, decision, and intersection. The letter itself forms a perfect crossing, symbolizing a meeting point, a convergence of opposites. This is the archetype of the crossroads keeper or the threshold guardian. People with X names may often find themselves in transitional roles between people, ideas, or phases of life. Jung would see this as connected to the archetype of transformation, or the shadow gate, where choices carry weight and the unconscious comes forward. These individuals often feel that life pushes them to make difficult decisions or hold space for uncertainty. Their presence is catalytic. They change dynamics, challenge assumptions, and provoke inner reflection in others. The shadow of X is avoidance of stillness. Living constantly at the edge of change, they may resist grounding. Their growth lies in learning that they are not the path itself, they are the witness who holds it open. When integrated, sex energy becomes sacred disruption. These people don't just adapt to change, they are the ones who make transformation possible. The seeker of meaning. If your name begins with Y, you carry the symbolic tone of curiosity, depth, and soul yearning. The form of the letter splits into two directions, a symbol of questioning, of choice, of paths diverging. This is the archetype of the seeker or the philosopher. Jung might say, this letter embodies the journey of individuation, the quest for deeper purpose beyond surface roles or societal masks. People with this energy often ask the big questions early in life. Why am I here? What matters most? They may not settle for easy answers. They seek alignment between inner values and outer life. The shadow of Y is existential fatigue. The longing for purpose can become a burden. These individuals may feel restless, unsatisfied, or misunderstood. The task is to find meaning not just in answers, but in the process of seeking itself. When integrated, Y energy becomes a guiding, a light. These individuals help others find their own truth, not by preaching it, but by living their questions out loud. Z's the finisher. If your name begins with Z, you carry the symbolic energy of completion, wisdom, and final insight. Z is the last letter of the alphabet. It closes the cycle. Its form cuts diagonally, horizontally, and again diagonally, suggesting motion, force, and finality. This is the archetype of the closer, the sage, or the transformative elder. People with Z energy often have a profound awareness of life's impermanence. They may carry ancient insight, even if young in age, and a need to bring things to resolution. Jung might link this to the archetype of the alchemist or the wise teacher, those who turn experience into distilled wisdom and endings, into sacred beginnings. The shadow of Z is detachment. In seeing too far ahead, they may become disconnected from the moment. They may rush closure or avoid emotional nuance. The work is to remain fully present, even at the edge of transformation. When conscious, Z energy becomes legacy. These individuals help others end things well, relationships, cycles, beliefs. They carry the wisdom of completion without fear of the unknown. You've carried it your whole life. That one letter, that first sound, that symbol that others used to call you before you even understood what a name was. You've written it on forms, signed it on screens, heard it in rooms where you were seen, and in spaces where you were invisible. But maybe, until now, you never truly stopped to ask, What is this letter reflecting about me? Carl Jung taught us that we live surrounded by symbols, each one carrying energy from the unconscious that shapes how we see the world and how we see ourselves. The first letter of your name is not your destiny, but it might be a mirror, a whisper, a symbol your soul chose to carry for reasons your conscious mind may never fully grasp. You are not limited by it, but you are invited by it to notice how it resonates, to ask what part of you it has always spoken for, and to wonder what would happen if you lived the truth it represents, consciously. Because once you hear the sound your name has always been making, you can never go back to silence.